Ladies and gentlemen, the most dangerous thing in life is not what's outside of you, it's what you allow to stay inside of you. As you see, a cup doesn't overflow because of what's around it, it overflows because of what's already in it. Many people today are carrying more than they were built to carry. Bitterness, resentment, fear, shame, guilt, stored up like poison in a container that was meant to hold purpose and peace. Let me tell you something. You were not designed to house negativity. That's not your blueprint. That's not your original intent. You were made to be a vessel of vision, a container of dreams, a distributor of light. But if you don't empty out what's been contaminating your soul, you will never have room for what heaven's been trying to pour into your life. Some of you are still angry about something that happened 10 years ago. You rehearse the pain. You relive the offense. And every time you do, you reinforce the chains. But hear this, you cannot be full of purpose and full of poison at the same time. You've got to choose. You've got to decide what you'll allow to stay. Negativity doesn't just live quietly. It grows silently. It multiplies in the dark. A small offense becomes a root of bitterness. A minor failure turns into a mindset of defeat. And before you know it, you're living in a prison built by your own permission. So the question is not what happened to you, but what are you still holding on to? There is a fundamental truth about life that many fail to realize. You cannot carry purpose and negativity at the same time. Imagine a glass jar, clear, clean, meant to hold water, refreshing and life-giving. But what happens if you start filling that jar with mud, with grime, with dirt? The water can no longer be pure. It cannot serve its original purpose. The jar is still the same shape, but what it contains has changed everything about its function. Now think of your heart and mind as that jar. What are you filling it with? Is it purpose, vision, hope, or is it negativity, doubt, anger, and fear? When you hold on to bitterness, when you nurture resentment, you are allowing that negativity to fill the space that was meant for something far greater. Every moment you rehearse the hurt, every time you relive the pain, you are putting another layer of dirt into that jar. And before long, you are no longer able to see clearly through the glass of your life. Your vision becomes clouded. Your potential becomes hidden beneath the weight of unresolved emotion. Look around at the people who seem stuck, who struggle to move forward in life. Often they are carrying invisible burdens, unforgiveness, regret, jealousy. These feelings act like heavy stones in a backpack. The more stones you carry, the heavier the load, and the slower you walk toward your dreams. Why would anyone willingly carry such a load? Because sometimes we don't know any better. Sometimes we don't realize that we have a choice to keep carrying the pain or to let it go. Ask yourself, if you had a backpack filled with stones, would you carry it through your whole journey or would you set it down at some point? The answer is obvious. Yet emotionally and spiritually, many of us walk around burdened with stones we never dropped. We wear them like badges of honor as if the pain defines us or proves we have survived. But survival is not the same as living fully. Now consider a garden. You plant seeds in fertile soil, expecting flowers or fruit. But what if the soil is filled with weeds and thorns? No matter how good the seeds are, no matter how much you water or tend the garden, those weeds will choke out the life you hope to grow. Your heart is like that soil. If it's filled with negative thoughts, self-doubt, bitterness, and unforgiveness, How can your purpose take root and blossom? How can your dreams grow if the soil is not prepared? This is why emptying out negativity is not just an emotional act. It's a spiritual and practical necessity. It's not about pretending the bad didn't happen or acting like you are okay when you're not. It's about intentionally choosing to release the things that keep you trapped. It's about making space for the vision that's been placed inside you. Consider the story of a young woman who wanted to start a business. Every time she sat down to write her plan, fear whispered in her ear, "You won't succeed." Doubt crowded her mind, telling her, "You're not good enough." These voices were the negativity filling her jar, muddying the clear water of her purpose. But the moment she began to identify these thoughts and consciously reject them, emptying out the mental trash, her vision became clearer. She could see the path ahead. She could hear her own voice saying, "I can do this." What about you? What are the negative thoughts or feelings you carry every day? Are they excuses? Are they fears? Are they stories you tell yourself about why you can't move forward? And how much room do those things take up inside your life? If you were honest, would you say that these negatives are overshadowing the very purpose you were born to fulfill? The truth is, negativity is a heavy load, but it is also a choice. You may not have chosen the circumstances that brought it on, but you do have a choice about whether to keep holding it. Purpose is not just something you discover. It's something you must protect and nurture. You cannot protect your purpose while simultaneously carrying a burden of negativity. One of the most profound acts of leadership and self-mastery is the willingness to empty out the old to make room for the new. This means refusing to rehearse the pain, refusing to let bitterness fester, and refusing to let fear dictate your steps. It means filling your jar only with what nourishes your vision and supports your journey. Ask yourself, if your purpose were a plant, what would you need to remove from your soil to help it grow? What would you have to let go of today so that your dreams can breathe and flourish tomorrow? When you answer honestly, you will find that emptying out the negative is not a loss. It is the greatest gain you can make for your future. Because you cannot carry purpose and negativity at the same time. One will always push the other out. The choice is yours to make. Negativity doesn't just sit quietly inside us. It grows silently, almost unnoticed, until it takes over our entire being. Think of it like a small crack in a dam. At first, it seems insignificant, a tiny drip of water escaping. But left unchecked, that drip turns into a stream, and the stream becomes a flood that breaks the dam and destroys everything in its path. Negativity works the same way inside your heart and mind. What begins as a small thought, "I'm not good enough, I'm too hurt, they betrayed me," if nurtured, grows quietly and eventually floods your entire life. Have you ever seen how a tiny seed grows into a giant tree? It starts under the surface, hidden, invisible. The seed is small, but it contains potential for greatness. But imagine if that seed were planted next to a weed, or worse, if it was crowded out by thorns and stones. The seed's growth is stunted, weakened, or it dies before it can flourish. Negativity is like those weeds and thorns. It doesn't just stay in one place. It spreads, choking out everything good inside of you if you don't tend to your inner garden carefully. You might be wondering, how does negativity grow silently? How can something so harmful go unnoticed? The answer is in how our minds work. Negative thoughts are sneaky. They don't always come screaming at you. They creep in during quiet moments, when you're tired or vulnerable, and plant seeds of doubt and fear. You might brush them off at first, but as time goes on, they take root, and without conscious effort to uproot them, they go strong. Consider the story of someone holding a grudge. At first, the offense seems small, maybe even just a misunderstanding. But each day, that person replays the event in their mind, feeling the hurt and anger over and over. What began as a minor irritation becomes a heavy weight. That grudge, like a hidden fire, slowly burns away, peace and joy, until it consumes the heart completely. Before long, the person can no longer remember why they are angry. They just know they are trapped in bitterness. Now, let's think about how negativity affects your health and relationships. Scientists tell us that stress and negative emotions release chemicals in our bodies that harm our immune system, make us sick, and even shorten our lives. It's like carrying a backpack full of sharp stones every day. Each stone might not seem heavy on its own, but together they wear down your strength. Why would anyone carry such a burden? Yet many do, because negativity is invisible and silent. It hides in the shadows of our thoughts. Ask yourself this: how many dreams have you watched wither because negativity crept in unnoticed? How many opportunities have passed by because fear and doubt grew stronger than your faith and courage? Negativity is a silent thief. It steals your joy, your confidence, and your hope without you even realizing it. The danger of negativity growing silently is that it disguises itself as truth. You begin to believe the lies it whispers. You're not worthy. You'll never succeed. You're stuck. When lies become accepted as truth, they form chains that hold you captive. But chains can be broken once you recognize they are there. Think about how a house is built. If the foundation has even one crack, the entire structure is compromised. Negativity is like that crack. If it spreads, the whole life can collapse. That's why it's critical to examine your thoughts regularly. What cracks do you see in your foundation? Are you allowing negative thoughts to widen those cracks until your whole life feels unstable? It's not enough to ignore negativity and hope it goes away. That's like ignoring the crack in the dam and hoping it won't flood your home. You must be intentional. Pull out the weeds, remove the stones, repair the cracks. This takes courage because it means facing uncomfortable truths about what you have been carrying inside. But it is necessary if you want to reclaim your peace and your purpose. Ask yourself, what negativity is growing silently inside you right now? What thoughts or feelings have you allowed to multiply without confronting them? And what will it cost you if you continue to ignore them? What will it cost you if you choose to face them and uproot them today? Negativity is not just a feeling, it is a force that grows when unattended. But just as it grows silently, it can also be stopped, removed, and replaced with thoughts of hope, faith, and purpose. The choice to care for your inner garden is yours to make, because if negativity grows silently, so too can your courage and your vision grow, if only you decide to nurture them. The silent growth of negativity is a warning, not a sentence. Holding on to past pain and offenses only reinforces chains that limit your destiny. Imagine walking through life carrying a heavy chain around your ankle. Every time you think about the hurt, every time you replay the offense in your mind, it's like tightening that chain just a little more. At first, the chain might feel manageable, even invisible, but over time, it grows heavier, restricting your movement, slowing your progress, and eventually it can bring you to a complete halt. And many of us are dragging invisible chains forged by old wounds and unforgiveness, wondering why we feel stuck or unable to move forward. Consider the story of a man who was betrayed by someone he trusted deeply. The pain was sharp, the wound fresh. But instead of releasing the bitterness, He held on to it tightly, nursing it day after day. The offense became a prison, and his own refusal to let go became the bars that kept him confined. He began to believe that by holding onto the pain, he was protecting himself from being hurt again. Yet, in reality, he was the one suffering the most. His past hurt became his present prison. Have you ever met someone who can't seem to move past a particular incident? They replay it over and over like a broken record stuck on the worst moment of their life. But what if I told you that every time you relive that pain, you're actually reinforcing the chains around your spirit? You are not punishing the person who hurt you, you are punishing yourself. And in doing so, you are robbing yourself of the freedom to live your... Think about how rust works on metal. A small scratch on a shiny surface might seem insignificant at first, but if it's ignored, rust begins to form. It spreads quietly, eating away at the metal until the structure weakens and eventually collapses. Holding onto offenses works the same way. It starts as a small wound, but the refusal to forgive allows bitterness to spread, corroding your heart and weakening your spirit. And why do we hold on? Why do we cling to pain when it only harms us? Often, it's because we believe that letting go means forgetting or excusing the offense. But forgiveness is not about forgetting, it's about freeing yourself. It's about breaking the chains that bind you to the past so that you can step boldly into your future. Ask yourself, what chains are you still dragging that keep you from stepping into your destiny? What hurts have you carried so long that you no longer remember what freedom feels like? How much of your energy is spent maintaining your prison instead of building your dreams? I want you to picture a bird trapped in a cage. The bird has wings, but it can't fly because the door is locked tight. The cage represents your past pain and unforgiveness. The wings represent your God-given potential and purpose. The key to that cage is forgiveness. Not just for others, but for yourself. Until you use that key, you remain trapped. No matter how strong your wings are, it's important to understand that releasing the chains does not mean the past never happened. The scars may remain, but scars are not chains. Scars remind us that healing is possible, that we have survived. But chains, those are what keep us captive. And every day you hold on to bitterness, you tighten those chains. Think about the weight of a grudge. It's like carrying a backpack filled with stones. Every time you think about the offense, you add another stone. The burden grows heavier, and soon even the simplest tasks become exhausting. Why would anyone choose to carry such a load? Yet many do, because they haven't realized that forgiveness is the only way to lighten the load. You might be afraid that if you forgive, the offender will win, or that you will be vulnerable again. But forgiveness is no weakness, it is strength. It is taking control of your own life and refusing to be controlled by the past. Forgiveness frees you from the chains so you can walk boldly into the future God has prepared for you. Ask yourself, are you ready to break free? Are you willing to unlock the door of your cage and fly? What dreams have you put on hold because you are still chained to yesterday's pain? How will your life change the moment you decide to release those chains? You were not created to be a prisoner of your past. You were designed to be a conqueror of your present and a creator of your future. The chains that bind you are not stronger than your will to be free. You have the key. It's time to use it. Holding on to past pain only strengthens the chains that limit your destiny. The choice to break free is yours. True freedom begins when you choose to release what contaminates your soul. Not when circumstances change, not when people apologize, not even when the pain disappears. Real, lasting freedom starts the moment you decide that what's living inside you no longer has the right to stay. It's not just about external liberty, it's about internal release. Because the most dangerous prison is not the one with walls around you, but the one built within you by thoughts, emotions, and toxic beliefs you've allowed to settle in your spirit. Think of a water filter. Its job is to remove impurities so that what comes out is clean and usable. But what happens when the filter itself becomes clogged and contaminated? It no longer works. Instead of filtering, it begins to pass the contamination through. That's what happens to your soul when you don't release bitterness, fear, shame, or guilt. What should be life-giving becomes polluted, not because the source has changed, but because the vessel has been compromised. Have you ever walked into a room filled with stale air? It's suffocating. Uncomfortable. You want to open a window, let the fresh air in. Your soul works the same way. It needs regular circulation, space to breathe, space to release what is stale and toxic. The longer you hold on to negativity, the harder it is to breathe freely in your own life. What have you been holding on to that's been polluting the atmosphere of your heart? What thoughts have become so familiar that you've mistaken them for truth? We live in a world that trains us to hold on. Hold on to your trauma, hold on to your reputation, hold on to the offense. But there is a deeper wisdom that invites us to let go. Let go of what no longer serves your growth. Let go of what contaminates your purpose. Let go of the story you've told yourself that you're not enough, not ready, not worthy. Because as long as your soul is clogged with what is toxic, you will never have room for what is transformational. Think of a closet packed with old clothes. Clothes you no longer wear, no longer need, but refuse to give away. Now imagine trying to make space for a new wardrobe. There's no room, not because you don't deserve it, but because you won't release what you're no longer using. Many people live like that emotionally. Their hearts are full, but not with purpose or peace. They are full of old arguments, old failures, old wounds. So even when something good tries to come in, love, opportunity, healing, it has no space. Ask yourself, what are you full of today? Are you full of grace or are you full of grudge? Are you full of peace or are you packed with pain? Because your soul, just like that closet, cannot hold both at the same time. You must choose what stays and what goes. And the truth is, the things you don't release will begin to rot. They will infect your joy, sour your relationships, and dim your vision. That's not freedom. That's spiritual suffocation. One of the most liberating acts you can ever perform is to consciously, deliberately choose to release what contaminates you. That means being honest with yourself about what's still hiding in the corners of your heart. It means confronting the thoughts you've ignored, the feelings you've buried, the stories you've repeated for years. It takes courage, but on the other side of that courage is clarity, and clarity leads to purpose. Consider a garden again. If you plant flowers next to a toxic plant, the poison will eventually affect the entire bed. The same goes for your inner life. If purpose is planted next to envy, peace next to bitterness, joy next to regret, the toxins will spread. You must do the hard but necessary work of removing what's harmful so what's healthy can thrive. What toxic plant is growing in your garden right now? What needs to be pulled up by the root? Your soul was never meant to be a dumping ground for pain. It was designed to carry light, to reflect the beauty and brilliance of who you are and why you were created. But it cannot do that if it's filled with toxic residue from yesterday's wounds. Letting go isn't just an emotional release, it's a spiritual detox. It's how you make room for the future that's already calling your name. True freedom is not the absence of trouble, it's the presence of peace. And peace only lives where contamination has been cleared. The decision to clean the soul is not easy, but it is necessary. Because true freedom begins the moment you release what contaminates your soul. So now the question is no longer, can I live free, but rather, am I willing to empty out what's been holding me back? The power to transform your life doesn't begin with others. It begins with you. When you silence the negative voices, uproot the silent poisons, break the chains of past pain, and release the toxic weights from your soul, you step into a life of clarity, purpose, and peace. You weren't created to carry burdens you were never meant to bear. You were created to rise, to flourish, to reflect the light of your calling. Today is not just another day, it's a divine opportunity to begin again, lighter, freer, and more focused than ever before. You owe it to your future to let go of what's contaminating your present. Thank you for listening. May your journey forward be bold, your heart be light, and your spirit be free. Good luck, and God bless you.